शुक्लां भरतरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकम् हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதீஹதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्त प्रतिपत्तये जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी द्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചനാനിന്നോടായി ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞാനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare. Good morning, everyone. Okay, we have the review of 58 and 59 we can do. Let's see who I had. Maybe Hari, can you do one? And Hema, you can do one. Whichever one you guys want. Hema, if you want to start 58, either is okay.
त्वयि विहरणलोले बालजालैः प्रलम्ब प्रमतन विलम्बे तेन वस्वैरचाराः तृणकुतुकनिविष्टा दूरदूरं चरन्त्यः किमपि विपिनमैषी काक्यमीशां बभूवुः अनधिगतनिदाग क्रौर्यबृन्दावनान्तात् बहिरिदमुपयाताः काननं देनवस्ताः तव विरहविषण्णाः ऊष्मलग्रीष्मताप प्रसरविसरदम्बस्याकुलास्तम्भमापुः तदनु सहसहायैर्दूरमन्विष्य शौरे गलितसरणिमुञ्चारण्यसञ्जातखेदम् पशुकुलमभिवीक्ष्य क्षिप्रमाणे तु मारात् त्वयि गतवती हि सर्वतोऽग्निर्जृम्भे सकलहरितिदीप्ते घोरबाङ्कारभीमे शिखिनि विहतमार्गा अर्धदग्धा इवर्ताः अहह भुवनबन्धो पाहि पाहीति सर्वे शरणमुपगतास्त्वां तापहर्तारमेकम्
The second line, last word, Hema, ivartaha. Okay, that last word there. Okay.
अलमलमतिभीत्या सर्वतो मीलयध्वं दृशमिति तव वाचा मीलिताक्षेषु तेषु क्वनुदवदहनोऽसौ कुत्र मुञ्जाटवीसा सपदि ववृतिरेते हन्त भाण्डीरदेशे जय जय तव माया केयमीशेति तेषां नुतिविरुदितहासो बद्धनानाविलासः पुनरपि विपिनान्ते प्राचरः पाटलादि प्रसवनिकरमात्र ग्राह्यघर्माणुभावे त्वयि विमुखमिवोचैस्तापभारं वहन्तं तव भजन वदन्तः पङ्कमुच्छोषयन्तं तव भुजवदुदञ्च भूरितेजः प्रवाहं तपसमयमनैशीर्यामुनेषु स्थलेषु तदनु जलदजालैस्त्वद्वपुस्तुल्यबाभिः विकसदमलविद्युत्पीतवासो विलासैः सकलभुवनभाजां हर्षदां वर्षवेलां क्षितिधरकुहरेषु स्वैरवासिप्यनैषीः कुहरतलनिविष्टं त्वां गरिष्ठं गिरीन्द्रः शिखिकुलनवकेका काकुभिस्तोत्रकारी स्फुटकुटजकदम्ब स्तोमपुष्पाञ्जलिं च प्रविदधनुभेजे देवगोवर्धनोऽसौ अथ शरदमुपेतां तां भवद्भक्तचेतो विमलसलिलपूरां मानयन् काननेषु तृणममलवनान्ते चारु सञ्चारयन् गाः पवनपुरपते त्वं देहि मे देहसौख्यम् श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः
दशकं 59 वेणुगान वर्णनम् कालय कोमलं प्रेमदोह नमसेषु मोहनं ब्रह्मतत्त्वपरचिन्मुदात्महं दीक्ष्य सम्मुहुः वहन् प्रियगान् मन्मदोन्मदितमानसक्रमात् तद्विलोकनरसास्ततस्तहं कोदिगास्तवनसे हिरे हरे क्षाणनोबत् गदिमप्यहर्मुखे निर्गदे भवति तत् दृष्ट्यहं त्वत्तदेन मनसा मृगेशमहं वेणुनादमुपकर्ण्य पुरादहं वेणुनादमुपकर्ण्य दूरदहं त्वत्विलासकथयाभिरेनिरें काननान्दनिरवान् भवान् नबी सिक्निदपादपादले मनोरमे व्यत्यया कलितपादमास्तिदघं प्रत्यपूर्यद वेणुनालिकाम्.
Hari, and the first line after the comma, snigdha tale.
स्निग्धपाद पादपतले मनोरमे
Yeah, exactly.
नित्यका कलितपादमस्तिरहन् प्रत्यपूर्यदवेणुनालिकाम् मारबाणकुदके सरीकुलम् निर्विकारपशुपक्षिमण्डलम् रावणम् सत्कुशदामभिप्रभो स्वावहम् व्यजनि वेणुगूजितम् वेणुरन्ध्रतालाङ्गुलीदलम् दालसञ्चलितपादपल्लवम् दस्तिदम् तव प्रोक्षमप्यहो सन्धिसिन्ध्यमुहुः मृजाङ्गनः नाः निर्विसङ्गपवदङ्गदक्षिणीः केसरिकहं मृगान् पशुनबीन् हृत्पदप्रणयिकाननां सादहम् धन्यधन्यनिधि नन्यवामनात्
Last word. Nanvamanayan.
धन्यधन्यनिधि नन्वमानयन्
Yeah.
आबिबेय अदारं मृदुं तदा वेणुगुप्तरसशेषमेघदां दूरदोपकृतं दुराशये व्याकुला मुद्रिमा समामुहुन् प्रत्यहञ्ज पुनरित्तमङ्गनाः सिक्तयोनिजनिदानुग्रहात् हत्तरागविवसा त्वयि प्रभो नित्यमाबुरिः नित्यमूढदाम् रागस्तावज्जायदेहि स्वभावात् मोक्षो वायो यक्षणः स्यान्दवास्यान् दासं वेदं तत्त्वयं लब्धमासीत् वाक्यं पाहि मां मारुदेश नाय परब्रह्मणे नमः।
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I had to change the class to Sunday. The Sunday class, this weekend was the last class. So we normally do the last class in person, and it was somebody's birthday yesterday, so they wanted to host it yesterday in their house. So we had to do that. So I had to swap for this weekend. So apologies for that. One other thing, you must see a new face in here. Sita, let you introduce. So don't worry, she's not joining just now. She was already a student, and she couldn't join the second half in her last session. So she's going to join us for the second half to catch up. Sita, if you want to just quickly introduce.
Hi, I am Sita Varnasi. Thank you, Rajesh, for getting me back into class. I live in Palatine. I have two children, Nikhil and Vibha, 25, and one is going to college. He's going to commit today. So I'll share the news. And yeah, I live with my husband in Palatine. I'm from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, so Hyderabad and Visakhapatnam. Telugu.
Thanks, Sita. Coming back to the class. It's a bigger class, but a lot of people are not here today because I changed the day today on them last minute. So anyway, all right.
Welcome to the group, like me.
So Pramila, you can be a student, and Devi, you can be a student. I saw Pramila is on. Okay. So 60, 61 we'll do today. So 60 is Gopi Vastrapa Harana Varnana. Both 60 and 61 are like embedded in so much philosophy behind. Like on the surface, it looks like something, but there's a lot of things behind the scenes. So 60 is Gopi Vastrapa Harana Varnanam, which is stealing the clothes of the Gopikas. Stanza 1. Madanaturachetasoन्वहं भवदङ्घ्रिद्वयधास्य काम्यया यमुना तटसीं निसैकतीं तरलाक्ष्यो गिरिजां समार्चिचन्. So the women of Vrajabhumi. So every time during the Margari month, which is the month sometime which happens in December time frame, right? So that is a time when people observe a lot of fasting, even Andal, all of that happened around that time. So during that time, during the Margari month, even then back there in Vrindavan, the women used to observe a lot of fast towards Narayana or to Katyayani in this case. So all these young unmarried girls of Vraja, so they also observed a fast for 1 month, right? And then they worshipped goddess Katyayani for that entire 1 month. So for that, every day, they used to bath, early in the morning, they used to rise, they used to bath in Yamuna, and then every day they used to go, and then they used to make an image of Durga, right, with clay, and then they used to worship Durga. So they used to do that every day for that entire 1 month, observing a Katyayani Vratam. Madanatura Chetasonvaham, Bhavadangri Dvaya Dasya Kamyaya Yamuna Tata Simni Saikatin, Taralakshyo Girijam Samarchichan. Madana Turacheta Sonvaham Bhavadangri Dvayadasya Kamyaya Yamuna Tata Simni Saikatin Taralakshyo Girijam Samarchichan.
मदनातुरचेतसोऽन्वहं भवदङ्घ्रिद्वयदास्य काम्यया यमुनातटसीं निसैकतीं तरलाक्ष्यो गिरिजां समार्चिचन् मदनातुरचेतसोऽन्वहं भवदङ्घ्रिद्वयदास्य काम्यया यमुनातटसीं निसैकतीं तरलाक्ष्यो गिरिजां समार्चिचन्
रचेतसोऽन्वहं भवदङ्घ्रिद्वयदास्य काम्यया यमुनातडसीमि सैकतीं तरलाक्ष्यो गिरिजां समार्चिचन् मदनातुरचेतसोऽन्वहं भवदङ्घ्रिद्वयदास्य काम्यया यमुनातडसीमि सैकतीं तरलाक्ष्यो गिरिजां समार्चिचन्.
Answer 2. Tavanama Katarata Samham Sudrushaf Pratarupagata Nadhim Upahara Shataira Pujayan Daito Nanda Suto Bhaveriti. So, young, you have to relatively understand the age, right? Krishna is around 7 or 8, this age. So these are also talking about unmarried girls. So girls used to get married early then. So even these are small, relatively small girls. So every day they used to perform this vratam, right? For very dedicatedly for that 1 month. And there is the purpose of what they all wanted to do was they all wanted to marry Krishna, right? And there's a beautiful slokam in Bhagavatam about the one stanza which describes this. I'm just going to look here and read this. कात्यायनि महामाये महायोगिन्यधीश्वरी नंद गोपसुतम देवी पतिम मे कुरुते नमः. Say, oh Katyayani, all we want is we want to marry that Nanda Gopa Sutta. We wanted to marry the son of Nanda Gopa. Now you can question, how are these young girls, right? So what do they want to marry? What do they even know about Krishna? They don't know Krishna is God. Why do they even want to marry Krishna? The point being, at this stage of their life, because they are very small, you know how girls are, all they wanted was, the only thing they could think of is who is going to be my husband, right? And the only person they wanted to have as their husband was Krishna. Essentially, I want nobody else in my life other than only Krishna. So that was the purpose. So every day they used to go and worship and say that I want Krishna to become my husband. I don't want nobody else, right? Because they don't know if he's God or what he is, but they were just constantly thinking about him. So this vratam, that actually showed the seriousness that they were going through. They were very disciplined about it. And every day they were thinking about Krishna and praying that they have to unite with Krishna. So that's why it says Daito Nanda Suto Bhavediti. So please, I want to get married, or I want to have that son of Nanda always with me. Tava Nama Katha Rathaha Putta is Ratha Samam, Sudrshaha Putta F Sudrshaf Pratar Upagata Nadim Upahara Shataira Pujayan, Daito Nandasuto Bhavediti. Tavanama Katharata Samham Sudrushaf Pratarupagata Nadim Upahara Shataira Pujayan Daito Nandasuto Bhavediti.
तव नाम कथारथा समं सुदृशः प्रातरुपागता नदीम् उपहारशतैरपूजयन् दयितो नन्दसुतो भवेदिति तव नाम कथारथा समम् सुदृशः प्रातरुपागता नतीम् उपहारशतैरपूजयन् दयितो नन्दसुतो भवेदिति
तव नाम कदारता समं सुदृशप्रातरुपागता नदीम् उपहारशतैरपूजयन् दयितो नन्दसुतो भवेदिति तव नाम कदारता समं सुदृशप्रातरुपागता नदीम् उपहारशैतरपूजयन् दयितो नन्दसुतो भवेदिति.
And the second line, Devi, Upahara Shataira Pujayan.
That Sha is there, right?
Yeah.
Upahara
Shataira Pujayan. Yeah. Sanchatri. Itima Samupahita Vrataha Taralakshir Abhivikshata Bhavan Karuna Mrudulo Nadi Tatam Samayasi Tadanugrahe Chaya. So like we said, it is the surface, it might look like however it is, but what is the core intent? The core intent was every day they were thinking about Krishna and then they wanted to be in union with him. So this went on for 1 month, right? They were constantly absorbed in this. So at that time, the last day has now come. So Krishna now knows that these girls have been thinking about me for 1 month. Finally, that has actually come. So finally, you decide. So the last day, when they had finished the puja, so everything was done. And the girl said, okay, successfully we completed that Bratham for 1 month, right? So they then decide to get into the waters to just have fun. I'll tell a little bit more the next answer, but Krishna decides that this is a time to come and bless them. So Samayas that anugrahe chaya. So you decide, I want to go in person, I'm going to go visit these girls, and then I'm going to bless them because they've been thinking about me for a month. Iti masam upahita vrataha, that is goes away, put a visarga comma. Taralakshir abhivikshya ta bhavan. So you can break at that ra. Taralakshir abhivikshya. Karuna mrudulo nadi tatam, comma. Samayasit tad anugrahe chaya. So if you break it that way, it will be easy. Samayasit tad anugrahe chaya. Itima samupahita vrataha taralakshirabhivikshata bhavan karuna mrudulo nadi tatam samayasi tadanugrahe chaya.
I'm sorry. इति मासमुपाहितव्रताः तरलाक्षीरभिवीक्ष्यता भवान् करुणामृदुलो नदीतटं समयासीत् तदनुग्रहे चया इति मासमुपाहितव्रताः तरलाक्षीरभिवीक्ष्यता भवान् करुणामृदुलो नदीतटं समयासीत् तदनुग्रहे चया
इति मासमुपाहिता व्रताः तरलाक्षीरपि वीक्ष्यता भवान् करुणामृदुलो नदीतटं समयासीत् तदनुग्रहेच्छया इति मासमुपाहिता व्रताः तरलाक्षीरभिवीक्ष्यता भवान् करुणामृदुलो नदीतटं समयासीत् तदनुग्रहेच्छया.
The first part of the thing, masam upahita, and the ta is just, I was hearing it as a tha, it is just a ta, upahita, vrajaha, vrataha, first half, iti masam upahita, vrataha. And support, niyamavasitau nijambharam, तटसीमन्यवमुच्यतास्तथा यमुना जलखेलनाकुलाः पुरतस्त्वाम् अवलोक्य लज्जिताः. So typically when you do like a big function, right? When you do like a saptaham for 7 days, or when you do anything for, there is something at the end called as a avabhrita snanam, where you go take a dip in the river, in a holy place, right? You take a dip. So these girls were actually doing that, because they successfully completed it for 1 month. So they were doing their avabhrita snanam, which is to go and finally take a dip. And they invited more people along because it was the last day that they had completed it. But the mistake they did this time was they had completely removed all their clothes, and we'll talk more about it. They removed all their clothes and they had gotten into the water. So after they gotten into the water, suddenly Krishna also ends up coming at the same time with his friends because he wanted to come and meet them. So now they see Krishna in front, and then Lajjitaha, they get very ashamed because they didn't expect to see. They've been wanting to marry him and they've been praying about marrying him every day. On the last day, he ends up coming in person as well. So the girls get very ashamed now that he has come, and then they are in the water. Niyamavasitau Nijambaram, Tata Simanyavamuchya Tastada Yamuna Jala Kelanakulaha, Puratas Twam, breaking at that ma, Puratas Twam Avalokya Lajjitaha. Niyamavasitau Nijambaram Tatasimanyavamuchyatastadha Yamuna Jalakhelanakulaha Puratastvam Avalokya Lajjitaha.
नियमावसितौ निजाम्भरं तटसीमन्यवमुच्यतास्तदा यमुना जलखेलनाकुलाः पुरतस्त्वामवलोक्य लज्जिताः नियमाविसतौ निजाम्भरं तटसीमन्यवमुच्यतास्तदा यमुना जलखेलनाकुलाः पुरतस्त्वामवलोक्य लज्जिताः.
The first word, Niyamavasitau.
नियमावसितौ.
Yeah.
Okay.
नियमावसितौ निजाम्बरं तडसीमन्यवमुच्यतास्तदा यमुना जलखेलनाकुलाः पुरतस्त्वमवलोक्य लज्जिताः.
So that word, Puratastvam Avalokya Lajjitaha.
पुरतस्त्वामवलोक्य लज्जिताः. There is a puratastvam, there is a
Yeah, and the ma is there, right? So it's easy to break that ma as im and a. So Puratastvam Avalokya.
नियमावसितौ निजाम्बरं तडसीमन्यवमुच्यतास्तदा यमुना जलखेलनाकुलाः पुरतस्त्वमवलोक्य लज्जिताः.
And it's word Twam. Puratastvam Avalokya.
पुरतस्त्वामवलोक्य लज्जिताः.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds up, right? Trapayanamitanhanasvatho Vanita Swambarajalamantikam Nihitam Parigrihya Bhuruho Bitapam Tvam Tarasadhirudhavan. When Krishna comes along with his friends, and then he sees that all these clothes are lying on the shore, right? And all these girls have gone into the water. So then they're also 7 and 8 years old, right? Around that age at the time. So what he does is he just takes all the clothes and then he climbs on to a tree because he just wants to take away all their clothes to as a punishment. That whole conversation is going to happen. So he climbs up on the tree, and then he then starts talking, right? So now the girls are suddenly they realize that Krishna has taken all their clothes, and they are now getting more worried. They're getting even more ashamed about it because now they are stuck in the water. Trapaya namitana naswatho, banita swambara jalam antike nihitam parigrihya bhuruho, bitapam tvam tarasadhirudhavan. It's one word. Trapaya namitanhanasvatho vanita swambarajalamantikam nihitam parigrihya bhuruho बिटपं त्वं तरसाधिरूढवान्
त्रपया नमिताननास्वतो वनिता स्वम्भरजालमन्तिके निहितं परिगृह्य भूरुहो विटपं त्वं तरसाधिरूढवान् त्रपया नमिताननास्वतो वनिता स्वम्भरजालमन्तिके निहितं परिगृह्य भूरुहो विटपं त्वं तरसाधिरूढवान्
कृपया नमिताननास्तदो वनिता स्वम्बरजालमन्दिके निहितं परिगृह्य पुरहो विडपं त्वं तरसादिरूढवान् कृपया नमिताननास्तुधो वनिता स्वम्बरजालमन्दिके निहितं परिगृह्य पुरुहो विडपं त्वं तरसादिरूढवान्.
First line just before the comma, Devi. Namitananaswatho.
नमिताननास्वथो.
Yeah, that's a 6. Ihatavadupetyanihyatam vasanam vasudrusho yatha yatham iti narma mridusmite twahi bruvate vyamumuhe vadhu janaihi. So Krishna now tells, because he's sitting with the clothes up on the tree from where he can see them. And he now realizes the girls also realize that he has taken all these clothes and they want it. So Krishna tells them that, I'm sure you all are tired because you've been doing this for 1 month. Today is the last day. You're in the water. If you all want your clothes, you can come and get it, right? And he says that I'm not lying. I'm not kidding here, right? Because I never lie. And all these boys over here know that, right? So whoever wants, you can come and then pick up your clothes. And then with that, he says, you just come, right? Now, so these girls also are young girls. Krishna is also a young boy. These girls really think that Krishna is joking, right? And so they just look at each other, they laugh, thinking, what is he expecting us to come out of the water, without anything and come and get it? So they don't come out of the water, right? Now, they don't come because it's not about fear. It's they feel very modest, right? Because they have to come. And then he's also a very close friend and everything. So they don't want to come out like that, right? So it's natural shyness at the time. At the time, they're also thinking, in front of Krishna, how can we come? Right? He is the person who we've been praying that we want to marry. No, we don't want to come in front of him. So with that, they end up remaining in the water, not coming out. Iti iha tavad upeti niyatam, vasanam baha, put is vasanam vas sudrusho yatha yatam, iti narma mridu smite twayi. So mridu smite is a very smiling face, in a very joking way, he tells mridu smite twayi, bruvati vyamumuhe vadhu janaihi ihatavadupetyaniyatam vasanam vasudrusho yatha yatham iti narma mridusmite twahi bruvate vyamumuhe vadhu janaihi.
ராஜேஷி அந்த வசனுக்கு அப்புறம் அந்த வேலை ஒரு இது விசர்கா இருக்கா?
Is it will take an is sound. Vas sudrusho. Okay, the vaha will become vas.
इहतावदुपेत्यनीयतां वसनं वस्सुदृशो यथा यथम् इति नर्म मृदुस्मिते त्वयि भ्रुवति व्यामुमुहे वतु जनैः इहतावदुपेत्यनीयतां वसनं वस्सुदृशो यथा यथम् इति नर्म मृदुस्मिते त्वयि भ्रुवति व्यामुमुहे वतु जनैः
इहतावदुपेत्यनीयतां वसनं वसुदृश्यो यथा यथम् इति नर्म मृदुस्मिते त्वयि ब्रवति व्याममुहे वधूजनैः इहतावदुपेत्यनीयतां वसनं वसुदृशो यथा यथम् इति नर्म मृदुस्मिते त्वयि प्रभुदीव्याममुहे वधूजनैः
The second last line, Devi, Bruvati Vyamumuhe.
ब्रुवति
Bruvati Vyamumuhe.
ब्रुवति व्याममुहे वधूजनैः
Chapter 7. Ayi jiva chiram kishoranastava dasiravashi kim pradishambaram ambuje kshanetyuditastvam smitameva dattavan. So no, they think, oh, this boy's laughing and telling he's joking, and they ignore whatever he said, right? They end up remaining in the water. This goes on, and then they're hoping at some point he's going to throw the clothes down, but he's not throwing the clothes down. So now they've been standing in water for a really long time. Now, suddenly, when you want to come, but you cannot come, the water starts becoming more cold. So they are beginning to feel cold right now. So they're saying, Krishna, like first, do a combination. First, they tell him in a nice way, saying, Krishna, you are a very, respectable son of Nandagopa. Nandagopa is like he's the head of that area, right? So you are such a nice person, right? And everybody in Brajabhumi loves you. You are so dear to us, right? So please give our clothes back. So, we are shivering in the cold. They ask in a nice way. He doesn't. Then they complain. They're saying, what? If you don't give our clothes back, right, we can go and complain to your father after that. And, this is a pretty big punishment that you're going to get because you are not giving our clothes. So they try to complain. Even that doesn't happen. Finally, they come to the point of surrender. They're saying that, please just give us, like we are like your maid servants, right? Because like Nandagopa is like the boss. So like we are like your servants. We will do whatever you want, right? Just give our clothes back. So they kind of, their emotions change, right? So they go from, requesting nicely to then trying to blackmail him and complain him. And finally, they come to the point where they're completely surrendering and say, we'll do whatever you want. Just give us our clothes back. Ayi jiva chiram kishore nas, then put a plus. Tava dasira vashi karoshi kim. That line is together. Pradishambaram, you can break at that ma. Pradishambaram ambujekshanet yuditas. Again, that second line is also going to be a continuous thing. You can put a plus there. Pradishambaram ambujekshanet yuditas Tvam smitameva dattavan. Ahijiva chiram kishoranastavadasiravashi kim pradishambaram ambujekshanetyuditastvam smitameva dattavan.
अयि जीव चिरं किशोरनस्तव दासीरवशीकरोषि किम् प्रदिशाम्भरमम्बुजे क्षणेत्युदितस्त्वं स्मितमेव दत्तवान् अयि जीव चिरं किशोरनस्तव दासीरवशीकरोषि किम् प्रदिशाम्भरमम्बुजे क्षणेत्युदितस्त्वं स्मितमेव दत्तवान्
अयि जीव चिरं किशोरनस्तव दासीरवशीकरोक्षि किम् प्रदिशाम्बर अम्बुजे क्षणेति उदितस्त्वं स्मितमेव दत्तवान्.
So Devi, and the second line there, ambujekshaneti uditastum. Those are the right words. But then when the ti and u comes, the sandhi becomes a tu there. Okay. So that's why tradishambaram ambujekshanet uditastum.
So the T is not coming
The
predominantly.
the ti and u, you have ambujekshaneti uditastum, right? You have two different words. When the T and U join, it becomes a Q sound.
Okay.
So you have to say it together unless you pause there, which we are not doing. So you have to say the whole thing together. Ambujekshanet yuditastvam.
Ambujekshane yuditastvam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
अयि जीव चिरं किशोरन स्तव दासीरवशीकरोक्षि किम् प्रदिशाम्बुराम्बुजे क्षणे युदितस्त्वं युदितस्त्वं स्मितमेव दत्तवान्.
Stanza 8. Adiruhya tatam kritanjalihi parishuddha swagatir nirikshataha vasananya kilanyanugraham punarevam giramapyadhamudha. So when they tried the different things, Krishna responds, saying that if you want to complain to my father, go ahead and complain. What is he going to do if he's angry? First of all, they have to be able to get out to go complain, right? So he says that threat is not going to work because you have to come out, right? So he says, I'm not going to bother. You can go complain to my father. Second, he says is if you're truly what you say are my maid servants, which is what they said, we are your dasis, right? So we are your servants, like your servants. We'll do whatever you want. He says, if that is the case, then you follow my instructions, which is, he says that you first of all of you committed one sin, which is, you went into the water, in the river water, without wearing any clothes. He says that is not supposed to be done. It's an insult to the river. So that's a little bit of a sin. But that is not that's one side thing. There's a different reason here, but that's the first thing. Second, he says, if you want to listen to me and want to follow my instructions, then what I want you to do is I want each of you to come alone, separately, and in the Krita Anjalihi, I want you to put your hands above your head in complete surrender and come, and then I'll give you the clothes, right? Now, why is this? So this is not a fun thing, right? Now, when we hear the story, it might think, oh, Krishna is 7, 8 years old. They're all small kids. They're all playing. It's not fun thing, right? Because what the symbolism of the clothes is, imagine why this is such an awkward situation, right? Because we associate everything with material things, right? The clothes define our identity, right? It defines whether we look rich, whether we look poor, whether you are dressed for a certain occasion, or you're dressed for office, you're dressed for work, or you're dressed for anything. It really defines our identity, right? But that is not our true identity, right? Our soul is our true identity. These clothes are a shield which actually cover that. And so the false ego that everybody has is, I am this body. That's the first level of ego that we have. The second level of ego we have is even more than the body is what I am wearing, right? That makes us define how we look, whether we're looking beautiful, not beautiful, rich, and all of that stuff. Two, it's a shame, right? Now, these girls are praying to Bhagavan saying, I want to be one with you, right? So when you're praying to Bhagavan saying, I want to be one with you, they don't realize how can you have a layer of separation between you and Bhagavan, right? The soul is directly connected, right? So this ego of our body is the first layer of covering we have. The second layer of covering is all these artificial coverings which we are putting of our clothes and everything. And so Krishna's message to these girls is, if you truly want to become one with me, which is going to happen much later, right? He says you have to remove all these barriers, right? You cannot separate you and me. And so the point here was, by abandoning all these clothes, by abandoning any separation you have, and with a complete surrender, because at this point, these girls are helpless. That's the point of complete surrender. So he says you leave everything you have, you do a Anjali and come with complete surrender. And then he'll say in the next one, then I will be with you. You will get an opportunity to be with me. So it was a final test that these gopikas or these girls had, because they've been praying to Krishna for 1 month, praying to Katyayani, saying, I want to be with Krishna. I want to get married to Krishna. I want to get union with Krishna for 1 month. But they still were feeling a sense of separation between them and the Lord. And this was a real test for them to completely remove that separation out, right? So that was the final thing. So finally, when they completely surrendered and each one came and they discarded any separation they had and confidently came up with the Anjali, and then Krishna then finally gave each of them their clothes back. Adiruhya tatam kritanjalihi, parishuddhaha, put is parishuddhas swagatir nirikshataha Vasanan Yakilan Yanugraham. So it's multiple words there. It's Vasanani Akilani Anugraham. 3 different words, but the sandhi, so you cannot separate it. So Vasanan Yakilan Yanugraham, Punarevam Giramapyada Muda. Adiruhya tatam kritanjalihi parishuddha swagatir nirikshataha vasananyakilanyanugraham punarevam giramapyadhamudha.
अधिरुह्य तटं कृताञ्जलिः परिशुद्धा स्वगतिर्निरीक्ष्यताः वसनान्यखिलान्यनुग्रहं पुनरेवं गिरमप्यतामुदा अतिरुह्य तटं कृताञ्जलिः परिशुद्धा स्वगतिर्निरीक्ष्यताः वसनान्यखिलान्यनुग्रहं पुनरेवं गिरमप्यतामुदा
अधिरुह्य तडं कृताञ्जलिः परिशुद्धा स्वगतिर्निरीक्षेताः वसनान्यखिलान्यनुग्रहं पुनरेवं गिरमप्यदामुदा अधिरुह्य तडं कृताञ्जलिः परिशुद्धा स्वगतिर्निरीक्ष्यताः वसनान्यखिलान्यनुग्रहं पुनरेवं गिरमप्यदामुदा.
That's right. Viditam nanuvo manishitam vaditarastviha yogyamuttaram yamuna puline sachandrikaha kshanadayitya bhalasvamuchivan. So, Krishna continues here, right? He's telling them more things. They may not fully grasp the significance of what he's telling, maybe, right? So he says that whatever they did for 1 month, the Katyayani Vratam, right, was not just a ritual, right? They thought they were doing something very ritualistic by going and creating this clay image of Katyayani and then praying, right? They thought it was a procedure they were doing. But really, what they were doing was they were conditioning their mind inside to be only wanting Krishna without realizing that, right? So they were really conditioning their mind here. So he says, when your mind gets conditioned on an everyday basis to say, I want union with Bhagwan, I want union with Bhagwan, when you're conditioning your mind every day, then you cannot have any sensory or material things connections that goes away over a period of time, right? And like we discussed even before, is anything that touches Bhagavan in any angle, you can come at it from any angle. It could be hatred, it could be love, it could be lust, it could be friendship, whatever it is. The moment it touches Bhagavan, it becomes spiritual in nature. We don't realize it. So everybody is approaching him in different ways. But the moment it touches him, it is spiritual in nature. So that's what he kind of says, just like how anything you put into the fire, it is going to burn. You might put something which is fresh, you might put something which is not fresh. At the end of the day, it's all going to get burnt, right? So when you put it into the fire, so the same thing, it is the connection with Bhagavan can be in any way you want. And that is what he's continuing to say here, saying even if it is imperfect connection, and even if the desire here, like in this Gopika's case, is starting with something very personal for them, the moment it got directed towards the right person, it became an elevated spiritual thing for them. It's no longer about lust or love or friendship or marriage or anything of that sort. It is purely spiritual because it's directed at the right person. If you direct it towards somebody else, then it still remains as that material thing, right? So that is what it is. So he says, I truly understand what your things are. You are ready for it now because you don't have any separation with me anymore, right? And so with that, when the time comes right, you will be back in union with me. That's what he says. That's eventually going to end up with the Rasa Krida in 69, right? So viditam nanu vo manishitam, comma, vaditarastviha yogyam uttaram. So finally, you are ready for it, for the union. Yogyam uttaram. Yamuna puline sachandrikaha, comma, Shanada ityabalas twamuchivan. Viditam nanubo manishitam vaditarastviha yogyamuttaram Yamuna puline sachandrikaha Kshanada ityabalas twamuchivan.
विदितं ननु वो मनीषितं वदितारस्त्विह योग्यमुत्तरम् यमुनापुलिने सचन्द्रिकाः क्षणदा इत्यबलास्त्वमूचिवान् विदितं ननु वो मनीषितं वदितारस्त्विह योग्यमुत्तरम् यमुनापुलिने सचन्द्रिकाः क्षणदा इत्यबलास्त्वमूचिवान्.
विदितं ननु वो मनीषितं वदितारस्विह योगमुत्तरम् यमुना पुलिने सचन्द्रिकाः क्षणदा इत्यबलास्वमुचिवान्.
The first line, last word, yogyam uttaram. Yogyam uttaram.
योग्यमुत्तरम्.
Yeah.
विदितं ननु वो मनीषितं वदितारस्विह योग्यमुत्तरम् यमुना पुलिने सचन्द्रिकाः क्षणदा इत्यबलास्वमुचिवान्.
From uchivan.
मूचिवान्.
Long u adu. Balastvam uchivan.
Not moo.
Long u. And the mu, but other one, if you want to break the itya balastvam uchivan. Long u.
इत्यबलास्त्वमूचिवान्.
Answer then. Upakarnya bhavan mukachyutam madhunishyadi. Sorry. Upakarnya bhavan mukachyutam madhunishyandi vacho mrigi drishah pranayadai vikshya vikshate vadanabjam shanakair griham gataha. Finally, the girls also felt sense of relief, because like sometimes you're holding on to things, and then they suddenly felt very free now, right? Now they no longer felt that they actually had a layer of separation between them and Krishna, right? They felt that they were much more tightly connected with it, and then they felt much more relaxed and happy with this. And with this, then they all then go back home. Upakarnya bhavan mukachyutam, madhu nishyandi vacho mrigidrishah pranayadai vikshya te, put a plus, vadanabjam shanakair griham gataha. Let's just do one time. We'll finish it off in the next few minutes. Upakarnya bhavan mukachyutam madhunishyandi vacho mrigidrishah pranayadai vikshya te vadanabjam shanakair griham gataha.
उपकर्ण्य भवन्मुखच्युतं मधुनिष्यन्ति वचो मृगीदृशाः प्रणयादयि वीक्ष्य वीक्ष्यते वदनाब्जं शनकैर्गृहं गताः.
Mrigidrishah, first line, last word. Just drishah, not drisha.
मृगीदृशः. Sure.
Drishah.
उपकर्ण्य पवन्मुगच्युतं मधुनिक्ष्यन्ति वचो मृगीदिशः प्रणयादै व्रीक्ष्य वीक्ष्यते वदनाब्जं शनकैर्गृहं गताः.
And the last line, Devi is continuous. Okay, there's a plus after te. Okay, te vadanabjam together. Okay. Stanza 11. Iti nanvanugrihya vallavihi, put a visarga comma. Next word ir goes away. Vipinanteshu pureva sancharan karuna shishiro hare hara, put a plus again. Tvaraya me sakala maya valim. So with this, then Gopikas went. So with this, Krishna having blessed the Gopikas, the gopis right now, who had done the Katyayani Vratam, you continued with the rest of the stuff. You continued your grazing and all of that stuff. For Guru Arapa, similarly, please show compassion and eradicate my ailments as well, right? So I think the takeaway from all of this is, the only after the Gopikas gave up their consciousness of their body, right, and the shyness and any separation that is there, they gave up. They then got the real blessings. So that is very important. Is you cannot have any layer of separation, right, between us and Bhagavan, because we cannot hide anything from Bhagavan. If we think we're hiding something, that means we are wrong on this, right? So there should be absolutely no hiding, physical or mental in nature, all right? So anyway, so with that, they finally got his blessing. Iti nanvanugrihya vallavihi vipinanteshu pureva sancharan karuna shishiro hare haratvarayame sakalamaya valim.
Rajesh, just a quick question. After the Vallavihi, is it a comma or a plus?
Is a comma there. The visarga is there, so comma, yeah.
इति नन्वनुगृह्य वल्लवीः विपिनान्तेषु पुरेव सञ्चरन् करुणाशिशिरो हरे हरे त्वरया मे सकलामयावलिम्
Hare Hara, second line.
हरे हर
Yeah.
करुणाशिशिरो हरे हर short.
इति नन्वनुगृह्य वल्लवीः विपिनान्देषु पुरेव सञ्चरन् करुणाशिशिरो हरे हर त्वरया मे सकलामयावलिम्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Switch second half. Sita Lakshmi, you can be a student, and Madhavi, you can be a student. Okay, so 61. Yajva Patni Uddharana. Patni Uddharana, but it's Patni Uddharana Varnana. So it's like blessing the wives of the people who are Yajva Patnis, people who do Vedic sacrifices, who do homams, blessing the wives of those. ततश्च वृन्दावनतोऽतिदूरतो वनं गतस्त्वं खलु गोपगोकुलैः हृदन्तरे भक्ततरद्विजाङ्गना कदम्बकानुग्रहणाग्रहं वहन्. So one time, when they were like, it all happens because they're all out there grazing every day, right? So they just decided to go to a different place. So one day, Krishna, you told them that let's go to a different place in the grazing in Vrindavan forest, because the people who are in Vrindavan get to experience Krishna on an everyday basis. So that they all absolutely enjoy the time. We saw the Venugana Varnanam last time, right? So the word spreads. So there were a group of people who were a little far away, who had also heard about all these activities of Krishna, and they've been longing to meet Krishna, but they have never got a chance. So that's why he's a Bhakta Tara. So Bhakta is devotees, Bhakta Tara is Uttara. People who are Uttama is the highest, Uttara is like relatively better. So they are still great devotees of Krishna who've been wanting to meet, but they have never had a chance to meet because those women have not been able to come out of their houses. So you thought it is time that you go there and actually go meet them and give them your darshan. Tatascha वृन्दावनतोति दूरतो वनं गतस्त्वं खलु गोपगोकुलैः हृदन्तरे भक्ततर द्विजाङ्गना पुट प्लस कदम्बकानुग्रहणाग्रहं. That's one long word, cannot break it. Grahanagraham vahan.
So Rajesh,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm driving.
Oh,
Actually
okay.
on my
No
way
worries.
to work, so I
No
won't.
worries.
Sorry.
Let me see who else I had. Gayatri, you can be a student. So here, Dvijangana, Dvija means somebody who's twice born. Generally refers to the Brahmanas, right? Who are twice born. Tatascha Vrindhavanatoti Dhurato Vanam Gatastvam Khalu Gopa Gokulaihi Hridantare Bhaktatara Dvijangana Kadambakanu Grahana Graham Vahan.
ततश्च वृन्दावनतोऽतिदूरतो वनं गतस्त्वं खलु गोपगोकुलैः हृदन्तरे भक्ततरद्विजाङ्गना कदम्बकानुग्रहणाग्रहं वहन्. 2 times, Rajesh?
2 times. 2 times. Yeah.
ततश्च वृन्दावनतोऽतिदूरतो वनं गतस्त्वं खलु गोपगोकुलैः हृदन्तरे भक्ततरद्विजाङ्गना कदम्बकानुग्रहणाग्रहं वहन्.
ततश्च बृन्दावनतोऽतिदूरतो वनं गतस्त्वं खलु गोपगोकुलैः हृदन्तरे भक्ततरद्विजाङ्गना ग्रहणाग्रहं वहन्. ततश्च बृन्दावनतोऽतिदूरतो वनं गतस्त्वं खलु गोपगोकुलैः हृदन्तरे भक्ततरद्विजाङ्गना कदम्बकानुग्रहणाग्रहं वहन्.
Answer 2. Tato nirikshya sharane vanantare किशोरलोकं क्षुदितं त्रिशाकुलं अदूरतो यज्ञपरान् द्विजान् प्रति Vyasarjayodi diviyachanayatan. So it becomes late, it becomes lunchtime. So the boys are now beginning to complain, saying, Krishna, you got us so far away from the main area from where Yamuna is flowing, and now we are all hungry. We are very thirsty. What do we do? And so when they're complaining about their hunger and thirst, Krishna says, no, don't worry. Very near this place, there are Brahmanas, a lot of them, who are actually performing some yajna, right? They're performing this yajna called as Angirasa yajna, which is something they do to ascend to heaven. Like you do enough of these yajnas, then you'll get Swargalokam. So they all want to go to heaven, right? And they're performing all these yajnas. So you say you all just go there, because when they're doing some yajna, homam is happening, they may normally have cooked a lot of food as well. So he says you just go there and then you go, don't get embarrassed about asking for food, right? He says just go there, ask them for food. And he says if you are worried about asking, you tell Krishna and Balarama, they sent us, you can put the blame on us, right? So just go there and ask for some food, and the Brahmanas will give you, because they have a lot of food. Yajnam is happening. Let's also eat some good food today, right? With that, Krishna then sends a bunch of boys to the place where the Yajnam is happening. Tato nirikshya sharane vanantare, kishora lokam kshuditam trishakulam adurato yajnaparan dvijan prati, vyasarjayo didivi yachanaya than. Tato nirikshya sharane vanantare kishoralokam kshuditam trishakulam adurato yajnaparan dvijan prati vyasarjayo didivi yachanaya than.
ततो निरीक्ष्या शरणे वनान्तरे किशोरलोकं क्षुदितं तृषाकुलम् अदूरतो परान् द्विजान् प्रति व्यसर्जयो दीदिवित्याचनायतान् ततो निरीक्ष्या शरणे वनान्तरे किशोरलोकं क्षुदितं तृषाकुलम् अदूरतो परान् द्विजान् प्रति व्यसर्जयो दिव्याचनायतान्
ततो निरीक्ष्या शरणे वनान्तरे किशोरलोकं क्षुदितं तृषाकुलम् अधूरतो यज्ञपरान् द्विजान् प्रति व्यसर्जयो दिदिवी याचनायतान्.
And the last word, Gayatri, divi. So first D is a long E. So divi yachanayatan.
Okay. दिदिवी याचनायतान्. ततो निरीक्षयात शरणे वनान्तरे किशोरलोकं क्षुदितं तृषाकुलम् अधूरतो यज्ञपरान् द्विजान् प्रति व्यसर्जयो दिदिव्याचनायतान्.
That's a 3. Gateshvato teshvabhidayate bhidam kumarakeshvodanayacishu prabho shrutistira apyabhinin yurashrutim nakinchiduchuscha mahi surotamaha. So the boys go there, young boys, they are afraid, because these big brahmanas there who are actually doing this yajnam. So first they just do a Shashtanga Namaskaram first, completely surrendering, saying, we have come here. And he says, they're afraid to talk because they're all small boys. They say, our friends Krishna and Balarama have actually sent here. And they say they're all out there grazing the cows. And they say, but we're all very hungry right now. So, you please give us some food, right? Because the Brahmanas are performing the yajnam there. And now the boys also know some rules. They know that if somebody is performing an yajna, then until they have eaten, the Ritviks have eaten, others don't eat. So there's a general procedure. So the boys know that. So they say, we know that we cannot eat food till you all have eaten food. But he says that at this point in the sacrifice, where they are in the procedure, they say that there are certain that things applies to certain guests, like the children who come, you can always give them food. They do not have any restrictions. That doesn't apply to small children. Plus, he says you already offered some prasadams already to the Bhavan. So you can give us some of that because that has already been offered to Bhagavan, right? So you can now give some of that. But essentially, we are very hungry, so give us some food. But these Brahmanas, they're so focused on doing these things. And here, Bhattaribhat beautifully uses the word Shruti, the third line. The Shruti means Vedas. But the Shruti, because it's called Shruti because the Vedas were heard, the Vedas were not written, right? So Shruti has two meanings. It means the Vedas, also hearing. So although they have learned Vedas, Shruti, in the last word, apyabhinin yur ashrutim. Ashrutim is not hearing. So although they have actually learned the Vedas, hearing on the other side, they completely ignored ashrutim. They acted as if they did not even hear the voice. They did not even acknowledge the voice actually coming, right? So they did not even respond. So they didn't even say no. They completely ignored. So it was like the boys came there, they did this namaskaram, they're standing there patiently waiting. They're saying, please give us some food. And then they are telling Krishna and Balarama, not only yes, Krishna and Balarama are asking for food as well. And these please completely ignore the boys, not even respond, not even say no. So they're completely rejecting them by refusing to acknowledge their presence there. Gateshvato teshvabhidaya tebhidam, comma. Kumara Keshvodana Yachishu Prabho Shruti Stira Apyabhinin Yurashrutim. That's one word, you cannot, no use breaking it. Apyabhinin Yurashrutim, comma. Na kinchit uchuscha, if you want to break it, or na kinchiduchuscha mahisurotamaha. गतेष्वतो तेष्वभिधायते भिदां कुमारकेष्वोदनयाचिषु प्रभो श्रुतिस्थिरा अप्यभिनिन्युरश्रुतिं न किञ्चिदूचुश्च महीसुरोत्तमाः.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. गतोश्चतेष्वभिधायते भिदां कुमारकेष्वोदनयाचिषु प्रभो श्रुतिस्थिरा अप्यभिनिन्यरुश्रुतिं sorry
Apyabhiningyurashrutim.
अप्यभिनिन्युरश्रुतिं न किञ्चिद् ऊचुश्च महीसुरोत्तमाः गतेष्वथो तेष्वभिधायते भिदां कुमारकेष्वोदनयाचिषु प्रभो श्रुतिस्थिरा अप्यभिनिन्युरश्रुतिं न किञ्चिदूचुश्च महीसुरोत्तमाः.
गतेष्वथो तेष्वभिधायते भिदां कुमारकेष्वोदनयाचिषु प्रभो श्रुतिस्थिरा अप्यभिनिन्युरश्रुतिं न किञ्चित् उश्चुष महिसुरोत्तमाः गतेष्वथो तेष्वभिधायते भिदां कुमारकेष्वोदनयाचिषु प्रभो श्रुतिस्थिरा अप्यभिनिन्युरश्रुतिं न किञ्चित् उश्चुष महिसुरो.
You can break the da if you want, Gayatri. Na kinchid uchuscha.
न किञ्चित् उश्चुष महिसुरोत्तमाः.
अनाधरा खिन्नधियो हि बालकाः समाययुर्युक्तमिदं हि यज्वसु चिरादभक्ताः खलु ते महीसुराः कथं हि भक्तं त्वयितैः समर्प्यते. So this is such a powerful thing, the Brahmanas who are performing the great Angirasa sacrifice, very big sacrifice they're doing. But when Bhagavan himself comes asking for food, now, granted, you can argue that they don't know that Krishna is Bhagavan, right? But what ultimately happened was Bhagavan himself is coming and asking for food. And then they're refusing to give it, right? And in Vishnu Sahasranamam, it comes beautifully, right? You know this stanza, Yajna Bhrit, Yajna Krit, Yajna Bhuk, Yajna Sadhanaha, Yajnanta Krit, Yajna Guhyam, Anna Manhada Evacha. It says, so Narayana, everything that you offer in Yajna goes to Narayana, right? Even in the Daksha Yajna, right? When that was all happening, but ultimately, Narayana comes because he's the consumer of all of the things that you actually put into the Yajna. There used to be these people called as mimamsas. Mimamsa is something that you actually do it where you try to understand things purely by logic, by speculation, by kind of philosophically trying to interpret things, right? And there is this class of people called as Purva Mimamsas who believed that you don't have to believe anything. You just have to stick to process. You have to do certain things in a certain way, right? So they were so tied to the process, right? And the ritualistic rules, right? That was actually there. So when they were so tied to ritualistic rules that they felt that if I need to do something this way, I only can do it that way. If I don't do it that way, that means it is worthless. And I don't have to care about anything else as long as I'm doing it exactly the way it has been prescribed to do. So they are called as Purva Mimamsas. Later on, that shifted, they called Uttara Mimamsas because they brought a little bit of bhakti and devotion into it later. So these priests who are there belong to this class of Purva Mimamsas. So who are just very, very focused a lot on procedures and rituals and correctness, right? Rather than the core intention behind it. So because of that, even when Bhagavan is coming and asking, they could not even recognize it because they never even gave it a chance, right? They just continued because for them, I'm doing this thing. I only will stop. I won't talk till I finish it. Until I finish it, I'm not going to respond to anything else, right? So with that, he said, Katam hi bhaktam tvaitai samarpyate. Saying that, if for somebody who has no devotion, they will not even recognize even when Bhagavan is coming and standing in front of them and asking something. You are trying to reach, but then you refuse to even acknowledge the presence because your mind is not tuned to it, because you're so focused on doing the process, right? So that is the big call out here that is actually happening, saying that, of course, that doesn't mean that you don't follow process, right? That's not, nobody's saying that you wear jeans and do home. Nobody's recommending that. There are process, but the bhakti has to be there along with everything you do. Otherwise, it becomes a mere physical act of doing things, right? Without any bhakti that is actually present. And we'll see the flip side of it here. Anyway, so the Purva Mimamsas, they completely ignore and they refuse to acknowledge the presence of the boys. Anadharat khinnadiyo hi balakaha, samayayur yuktamidam hi yajvasu, chirada bhaktaha, put ih to join, chirada bhaktah khalu te mahisuraha, katam hi bhaktam त्वयि तैहि, put is त्वयि तै samarpyate. अनादरात् खिन्नधियो हि बालकाः समाययुर्युक्तमिदं हि यज्वसु चिरादभक्ताः खलु ते महीसुराः कथं हि भक्तं त्वयि तै समर्प्यते.
अनादरात् खिन्नधियो हि बालकाः समाययुर्युक्तमिदं हि यज्वसु चिरादभक्ताः खलु ते महीसुराः कथं हि भक्तं त्वयि तैः समर्प्यते right?
Yeah.
अनादरात् खिन्नधियो हि बालकाः समाययुर्युक्तमिदं हि यज्वसु चिरादभक्ताः खलु ते महीसुराः कथं हि भक्तं त्वयि तैः समर्प्यते. Is it தை समर्प्यते or ते
இல்ல தைஹி இருக்காங்க, விசர்கா இருக்கு, அந்த விசர்கா will take a is sound, so தைஸ் சமர்ப்பியதே.
Okay.
अनादरात् खिन्नधियो हि बालकाः समाययुर्तप्तमिदं हि यजुस्वसु चिरादभक्ताः खलु ते महीसुराः कथं हि भक्तं त्वयि तैः समप्यर्ते. अनादरात् खिन्नधियो हि बालकाः समाययुर्तमिदं हि यजुस्वसु चिरादभक्ता खलु ते महीसुराः कथं हि भक्तं त्वयि तैः समप्यर्ते.
இல்ல அங்க இரு லாஸ்ட் வேர்ட் காயத்ரி, சமர்ப்பியதே.
समर्प्यते
SAMAR, சமர்ப்பியதே.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine. निवेदयद्वं गृहिणी जनाय मां दिशेयुरन्नं करुणाकुला इमाः इति स्मितार्धं भवते ऋतागताः ते दारकादारजनं न्ययाचिरे. So the boys come back very disappointed. They say, Krishna, you told us to go ask them. They did not even recognize that we came. It's like a big insult. that they didn't even acknowledge that we came. So Krishna says, okay, don't worry. I know you're all hungry. We'll do one more thing. He says, you go to the same place, but this time you go to the back side of the place where the yajna is actually performing. Because there the Yajva Patnis are there, the women are there, because all these yajnams are happening in the front, the women are all in the back side. He says, you go, because for them, logic doesn't matter. For them, it is all emotion, right? They know if somebody comes and asks for something, they will give, right? Because for them, they consider that important. So he says, you go ask them, tell them that Krishna and Balarama have come, they want food. In fact, Krishna says, you don't even tell them that I'm hungry. Because if you tell them that I'm hungry, they are going to get very upset about it, right? And because they already know about Krishna and Balarama, like we said in the first stanza, they are Uttama, they are great devotees, who've been wanting to see Krishna, they've heard about Krishna. So he says, you just go there and tell them that, Krishna and Balarama have come, you have come asking for some food. So the boys go again, second time. This time they actually go to the backside of where the yajna is happening, and they see all the Yajva Patnis who are all sitting there, right, with all this food and everything they have. And then the boys now go talk to them. Niveda Yadvam Grihini Janaya Mam, Disheyurannam Karuna Kula Imaha iti smitardram bhavaterita gataha. So add a visarga, gataha. Next line is goes away. Te daraka darajanam yayachire. Nivedayadvam grihini janayamam disheyurannam karuna kula imaha iti smitardram bhavaterita gataha te daraka darajanam yayachire.
निवेदयध्वं गृहिणी जनाय मां दिशेयुरन्नं करुणाकुला इमाः इति स्मितार्द्रं भवतेरिता गताः ते दारकादारजनं ययाचिरे निवेदयध्वं गृहिणी जनाय मां दिशेयुरन्नं करुणाकुला इमाः इति स्मितार्द्रं भवतेरिता गताः ते दारकादारजनं ययाचिरे.
निवेदयध्वं गृहिणी जनाय मां दिशेयुरन्नं करुणाकुला इमाः इति स्मितार्द्रं भवतेरिता गताः ते धारकादारजनं ययाचिरे.
First line, second word, grihini. Grihini.
Gruhini. Okay.
Yeah.
निवेदयध्वं गृहिणी जनाय मां दिशेयुरन्नं करुणाकुला इमाः इति स्मितार्द्रं भवतेरिता गताः ते दारकादारजनं ययाचिरे.
गृहीतनाम्ने त्वयि सम्भ्रमाकुलाः चतुर्विधं भोज्यरसं प्रगृह्यताः चिरं धृतत्वत्प्रविलोकनाग्रहाः स्वकैर्निरुद्धा अपि तूर्णमाययुः. The boys go tell these women who are actually there, saying that, we have come from Vrindavan, from that main area. We've been sent here by two people, Krishna and Balarama, and we all, need some food because it's very late in the afternoon. And the moment they say that these women who have heard so many descriptions of all these activities of Krishna and Leelas of Krishna, and they've been wanting to meet Krishna, they get very excited. They say, what do you mean, like, send food with you? We ourselves will come. And then they pack 4 types of food, Chatur Vidam Bhojya Rasam. So 4 types of food are anything that you can chew, right? That the food you can chew, the food that can be drunk, like pie, some things which can be drunk, some things which can be licked, right? You need to lick, and other which can be sucked like a lollipop. I don't know what the food is. Anyway, there are 4 types of food, right? So they pack all the 4 types of food that they actually have. And they say, we personally are going to come because we've been wanting to meet this boy Krishna for such a long time. So we ourselves are going to come, and they all come. Now, the husbands who are there, they block at the time because they say, this yajnam is going on. You can't just abandon us in the middle of these things, right? And go. And then there's a conversation that happens where they say, you cannot go in the middle of a yajnam like this because they're all support staff as well, right? But they say, no, we are just going to go. We're going to give this food to these boys who are actually there and will be right back. And so they go against their husband's wishes, and then they all these women leave along with the boys. Grihita namni twayi sambhrama kulaha, put a visarga comma. Next line, if you have a ish, that goes away. Chaturvidham bhojya rasam pragrihya taha chiram dhrita tvat pravilokanagrahaha, comma, swakair niruddha api turnamayayu. Grihitanamni tvai sambhramakulah chaturvidham bhojya rasam pragrihyataah chiram dhritatvat pravilokanagrahaah swakair niruddha api turnamayayu.
गृहीतनाम्नि त्वयि सम्भ्रमाकुलाः चतुर्विधं भोज्यरसं प्रगृह्यताः चिरं धृतत्वत्प्रविलोकनाग्रहाः स्वकैर्निरुद्धा अपि तूर्णमाययुः गृहीतनाम्नि त्वयि सम्भ्रमाकुलाः चतुर्विधं भोज्यरसं प्रगृह्यताः चिरं धृतत्वत्प्रविलोकनाग्रहाः स्वकैर्निरुद्धा अपि तूर्णमाययुः.
गृहीतनाम्नि त्वयि सम्भ्रमाकुलाः चतुर्विधं भोज्यरसं प्रगृह्यताः चिरं त्वत्प्रविलोकनाग्रहाः स्वकैर्निरुद्धा अपि तूर्णमाययुः. गृहीतनाम्नि त्वयि सम्भ्रमाकुलाः चतुर्विधं भोज्यरसं प्रगृह्यताः चिरं धृतत्वत्प्रविलोकनाग्रहाः स्वकैर्निरुद्धा अपि तूर्णमाययुः.
बिलोलपिञ्चं चिकुरे कपोलयोः समुल्लसत्कुण्डलमार्द्रमीक्षिते निधाय बाहुं सुहृदं ससीमनिस्थितं भवन्तं समलोकयन्तथाः. It's a beautiful description of what they see when they all come. So they all come, so in anticipation because they've been wanting to see and meet this boy. So they come, and when they come there, they see this boy is standing there. He's dark in color, right? Dark gray, blue color, and he's wearing yellow color garment. He has a peacock feather, below the pincham. He has a peacock feather on his head there. And then he has a vanamali. He has this garland of forest flowers, whatever flowers are available in the forest, right? He has a garland of that. And then he's actually having one of his hand. He's standing with his buddies, right? So he's having one of his hand on the shoulder of his friend, and the other hand he's actually twirling a lotus flower. He's got beautiful smiling face, and then cheeks which are very pretty. So this is beautiful Kishora, young boy who's actually standing there, and immediately their mind is just captivated because they've been so wanting to see, and then they see that form of Krishna standing under a tree with his friend, and then that's the form they see when all these women come there to meet him. Bilola pincham chikure kapolayoho, samullasat kundalam ardram ikshite. You can break that. Kundalam ardram ikshite. Nidhaya bahum suhrudhamsa simani, put a plus, stitham bhavantam samaloka yantataha.
Rajesh,
Yeah.
அந்த இங்க விலோல பிச்சம் போட்டிருக்கு.
In sound, pincham.
So the in will be a bindu above p.
ஆமா, அது சான்ஸ்கிரிட்ல இந்த ஞா இருக்கு இல்லையா, ஞாவோட half version, but it's pincham, in and cha, pincham. Bilola pincham chikure kapolayoho samullasat kundalamadramikshite nidhaya bahum suhrudam sasimani sthitam bhavantam samalokayantataha.
विलोलपिञ्छं चिकुरे कपोलयोः समुल्लसत्कुण्डलमार्द्रमीक्षिते निधाय बाहुं सुहृदं ससीमनिस्थितं भवन्तं समलोकयन्तताः विलोलपिञ्छं चिकुरे कपोलयोः समुल्लसत्कुण्डलमार्द्रमीक्षिते निधाय बाहुं सुहृदं ससीमनिस्थितं भवन्तं समलोकयन्तताः
विलोलपिञ्छं चिकुरे कपोलयोः समुल्लसकुण्डलम् आद्रमीक्षिते निधाय बाहुं सुहृदं स सीमनि सितं भवन्तं समलोकयन्तताः विलोलपिञ्छं चिकुरे कपोलयोः समुल्लसकुण्डलम् आद्रमीक्षिते निधाय बाहुं सुहृदं स सीमनि स्थितं भवन्तं समलोकयन्तताः
Second line le samullasat. There's a it sound there. Okay.
सत् ओके समुल्लसत् ओके
We'll do one more and stop. Tada chakachit tvadupagamodhyata गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वनः तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहो कृतिन्यसौ. So all these women who had heard such a long, they've heard so many stories, and finally, when they actually saw Krishna there finally in front of them, so they just completely reached a state of bliss. They were like embracing him with their hearts, right, with their minds, and all the pain and everything they had just disappeared by just looking at that form. That's why there's a beautiful description of Krishna in the previous stanza, to just describe the form that they actually see. And, with that, they felt a sense of peace. Finally, when all your problems dissolve, and then suddenly you become very relaxed and have a sense of peace. That's what those women felt. Now, there is a story of one other lady whose husband forcefully did not let her go. And, there's not much mention. Somebody in one of my previous classes was telling the name of that person. There's a long story about it, but it's not, the details are not there in Bhagavatam or Narayanam. It just talks about her that, she was completely blocked. So when all her other friends went, and she was then locked in her room, right, and they did not let her go. She was in such trauma because of missing out on these things, and then she just completely closed her eyes and just kept thinking about Bhagavan, and eventually she attained liberation. So here Bhaktaripada say, Kaivalya Maho, saying that, she attained that identity with Brahman so easily because that biraham, that pangs of separation, is much more deeper than the meeting somebody. And that's what Krishna is going to give the message later to the Gopikas as well, right? He's being with somebody and loving somebody is one level of love. But when you really want something and you are separated from that person, then that pangs of separation is actually much more deeper, which was what happened to this person. Tadacha kachit tvadupagamodhyata, grihita hasta daitena yajvana तदैव संचिन्त्य भवन्तम अंजसा, विवेश कैवल्यमहो कृतिन्यसौ. Just repeat one time, finish it out. तदा च काचित् त्वदुपागमोऽध्यता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव संचिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहो कृतिन्यसौ.
तदा च काञ्चित् त्वदुपागमोद्यता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्तमञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहो कृतिन्यसौ.
And the first name, Sita, the kachit, there's no in sound, just kachit.
Oh,
Kachit
काचित्
tvadupaga.
त्वदुपागमोद्यता. Okay.
Yeah.
तदा च काचित् त्वदुपागमोदता गृहीतहस्तादयितेन यज्वना तदैव सञ्चिन्त्य भवन्त मञ्जसा विवेश कैवल्यमहो कृतिन्यसौ.
Stop here and see what happens in the next class. Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावधिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Rajesh.
Thank you. See you all next
Thank
Saturday.
you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Rajesh ji.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.